Hello everyone and welcome to BrowserStack Talks, conversations that turn testing pain points into playbooks. I'm your host, David, and on this episode I'm thrilled to be joined by Rachel Kibler, a distinguished voice in the software quality landscape, known for her insightful perspectives on career development, user experience, and the intersection with AI testing. Rachel, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, I'm Rachel Kibler. I am a senior quality engineer at Sequel, which owns 1-800-CONTACTS, which sells eyeglasses and contact lenses online. I live in Salt Lake City, Utah, which has great outdoors and the Winter Olympics in a few years. And I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for having me, David.
Oh, it's amazing to have you. So we're recording this on a Monday. How was your weekend?
It was good. I was left unsupervised at an arts festival and came home with a lot more art than I intended. But I love doing that. It brings a lot of joy.
That's awesome.
How was yours?
My weekend was good. I kind of am helping my son, who's into the arts, helping him with his doing props and things like that on the weekend. It filled up my weekend, but it kept me out of trouble, which is probably the best thing to do right now. Otherwise, I get into lots of little mischief. So.
Excellent.
So I think we're going to dive straight in. You have an extensive knowledge, and you've done conference talks and things like that around career navigation and the modern QA professional. So your insights have kind of been invaluable to a lot of people. I remember when we were kind of talking about things before, I was talking about how job titles, at least when I was growing up, mostly didn't matter. And we saw the proliferation of QA engineer, SDET, quality analyst, test automation engineer, and more and more and more. From your perspective, how important are these titles nowadays, and what do they truly signify in an individual's role and responsibilities in such a dynamic workspace?
So, on the one hand, they mean nothing, and on the other hand, they mean everything. So for what we actually do in our day-to-day work, we all think about risk. We all look at risk and try to mitigate it as much as possible in what we do. And so in that sense, the job title doesn't really matter all that much. It just differentiates who might write code and who might not. But even that, it's not necessarily an indication. And so, but the job title matters a lot for career development and for morale. I mean, Jenna Charlton's work in this space and Isabel Evans also doing work in this space, they've pointed out that the job title does indicate some satisfaction and does show some identity. And I feel that a lot, that as my title has progressed, it influences how I think about myself and how I think about my work. So yes, it matters, but no, it doesn't matter. And I know that's a really helpful answer.
No, well, I think it's a good place to start. And one of the things I think job titles highlights for me, and it's a conversation I've had with Jenna as well, is that me not caring about job titles also comes from a place of privilege, right? It's more that I consider myself, I've had a really incredibly lucky career. I just happen to be falling into the right projects at the right time and gone, these are really cool, exciting projects that have kind of helped me push my career further and further into amazing companies that I've worked for, like Mozilla and now BrowserStack, working with the W3C and things like that. And I was fortunate, at least in my point of view, is that I never cared about my job title because I was doing something fun and exciting. But I also know that some people, it does matter, and to them it's less of a privilege to go, actually my job title, because they don't have enough of that same space that I've had. Is that something you agree with, or am I wildly off?
I actually do agree with that a lot. In a prior career, in a former life, I was a lawyer. And one of the things that we talked about, one of the anecdotes or the sayings that we had was, if you're in trial and you have the law on your side, you hit hard on the law, you bang on the law. If you have the facts on your side, you bang on the facts. And if you have neither on your side, you bang on the table. I think in testing, that kind of translates. If you have the experience on your side, you really want to hit hard on that experience. You can tell really compelling stories. Mm-hmm. But if you don't, and you have the title on your side, you hit hard on the title. That gets you in the door. So it's not only about job satisfaction now. It's about, what's the next step? How do I get in the door for what comes next? And if I can't tell a compelling story just with my title, or if I can't tell a compelling story right away with my experience of getting someone to spend 5 seconds on my resume, what title will entice them to talk to me?
Yeah. It's actually just reminded me of a hilarious story. I remember I was working as a software engineer, and I had this idea for something, and I said we should be doing this. I tried to do the compelling story, as you said, right? And I used the experience, banged on that, nothing happened. Banged on my job title, and then nothing happened. And then kind of, I don't know, about a month later, due to like the way the team was being restructured, they say, "Oh, do you want to be a manager?" And I was like, "Yeah, cool, I'll do this." And then I told the exact same story of what we should be doing, how we should be doing, and suddenly everyone's like, "That is an amazing idea, you should go do that." And I was like, but I've just said the exact same words as I said a month ago. The only difference here is the title. And I think kind of what you've just said just resonated with me. And again, it was that privilege of like, I got lucky all the time, right? Like I fully believe I got lucky. And it was just, at that point I got lucky again. I went upwards and I managed to get that project going. So like, how can aspiring and experienced quality engineers navigate this within their career path?
That's hard. I think we'll touch on this a little bit later, but communication is so important. Being able to communicate effectively about the work that you've done, about the way that you've prevented bad things from happening and made good things happen. But then also advocating for yourself, of saying, this is the title that I want, this is the career that I want, and it may not matter as much to the company, but this is what I think my role is. Especially if it's something that you feel like you can grow into. But then also broadening skills, of learning stuff outside your comfort zone. So in testing, we're talking about both shifting left and shifting right, of mitigating risk up front, and also finding additional areas of risk in production through observability. So expanding your role, expanding the scope of your role, and being able to tell a compelling story. So in resumes, apparently you get like 8 seconds of someone looking at your resume. So making it bold up top of what you actually offer, that can be compelling, and making sure that you know how to communicate about what you're actually doing. Instead of just saying, I test things. Well, what does that look like? Talk more about risk, and talk more about how you bring together a team to think about quality.
There's definitely things I could have been doing better by doing some of the things that you've suggested. So how do you, like, what advice would you give to people? Like, you've kind of said the things, but like, if they had to prioritize that, like, what is the thing that they should focus in on a lot more, from the communication, the kind of all of that? Like, where should they prioritize their development, their personal development?
I think that really depends on the phase of their career. If they have a lot of technical skills, if they're able to do the writing test plans and doing the testing effectively, using tools, using their brains, all that stuff, then it really does come down to communication. One book I love about this, it sort of applies, but not entirely. It's called Storyworthy, and I've forgotten the name of the author. But it's about how to tell short stories about what you're doing. And I think the things that have been powerful in there for me are that a story does have a beginning, middle, and end, and it does involve change. So you change, or the product has changed, or something has changed. And the way that we can impact that makes it a very interesting story and makes it more effective in being able to communicate what we're doing. So communicating, it's just so underrated. It's so important though, especially our work becomes so invisible. If we're doing our job really well, we don't have a lot of production outages. We may get noticed by our team for what we're doing, but the company as a whole doesn't care because they just know that things are working swimmingly and they may not know our role in that. So being able to tell about our part in that is important. One thing that I started at my company is a channel called Shameless, and it's still mostly driven by me, which is unfortunate, but it's a place for people to talk about what they're doing, the cool stuff that they're doing that other people might not know about. So they put in there big wins for their teams, big wins for themselves, personal wins my son just went to band camp for clarinet, things like that. But it also makes our work a little bit more visible.
Yeah.
And so that making work visible, making communication effective can really boost a career. But if you don't have the skills to talk about, then you need to work on those skills of being able to test effectively and mitigate risk.
Yeah, I like the phrase, and it aligns with yours, is that I always tell people that they should be doing things to increase their sphere of influence, because then and the sphere of influence could be literally just like talking to people at the water cooler to kind of like, here as a manager, here's my team's weekly newsletter of all the cool things we did, right? But if you're not influencing the sphere of influence regularly, it's quite easy to fall off that. And I think kind of one of the things that you've said kind of also resonated there, like when people like are having these wins, is that I know you're kind of known for learning in public, right? And kind of how that can help people's career. Could you, I know what you mean by it because I've spoken to you about, but could you tell like everyone what is your what do you mean by learning in public and how and what that has in the context of software quality?
So I'm still a little bit gun shy about that when it comes to making it very public, like on LinkedIn. But within my company, I'm pretty clear about what I want to do and where I want to go. And so I make that known of how I'm working to get there. So right now, as we move into this phase of getting new titles of senior quality engineer, there are things I need to learn to get there. And one of those is learning how to code in C# for my team, which is not really what I had envisioned had you asked me 8 years ago what I was going to be doing. But this ChatGPT and I came up with a plan for how I was going to learn. And I showed that to my manager and my dotted line manager, and I showed it to all the testers. And I said, these are areas where I'm weak. These are areas where I'm strong, but I can build on where I'm weak and make it a strength. And so I started another Slack channel called Accountability Buddies, where we throw our goals in for the week and we talk about how we're making progress towards our larger goals.
Mm-hmm.
I think within my company, I'm known for possibly my vulnerability, but I hope my vulnerability of being willing to go first with saying, I'm not good at this, I want to be better. And I think that's a big thing of saying, I'm not good, but that's not the end. Another thing that I do is get myself in way over my head with conference talks. I'll choose an area that I've started learning about or that I think I know a little bit about and am interested in and think, oh, I have all the time to really get this good. And sometimes those talks will be accepted, and then I have to learn a lot more than I expected in a shorter amount of time than I wanted. And so that's a learning out loud experience as well, or learning in public, because being able to talk about things and teach things effectively, you need to learn in a specific way.
Yeah.
And to be able to communicate effectively about what you've learned and make that impactful for other people, it takes a certain kind of attitude towards your learning. Yeah. So those are a couple of things that I've been doing.
Having been an engineering manager and now kind of head of developer advocacy, the thing that you said there that I think more people should be cognizant of is vulnerability. It's okay to be vulnerable, and I say this as a manager and manage tons of people. Like, the idea that people should do things by themselves and fail by themselves is silly, right? There's a reason why you're in teams, right? Because as a team you are successful. As individuals you're not. And it's like people who want to do startups, generally startups are a team of people. It's very rarely it's a solo startup. So I think as from my side, vulnerability is the thing that I think people shouldn't be afraid of. And I love the I can't even pronounce it. Accountability buddy.
Accountability buddies. Yeah, accountability buddies.
That's amazing. And I think it's important that people feel confident in failing. The other one that I personally like to do, and I think you probably do it in a slightly different way, is I tell people fail is fine, because fail stands for first attempt in learning.
I love that.
And it's okay to fail, because you've learned. Fail twice on doing the exact same thing, then we'll have a conversation. But failing is fine, and this is where the vulnerability, giving as quality managers or quality leads, I think it's important that we give people that ability to be vulnerable and go, hey, I don't know this, but can you help me learn it? And that's yeah, we'll give you the space, right? Because it benefits everyone long term that way. Yeah. Kind of like moving on from kind of this is that I've kind of mentioned there's a diverse range of roles in software quality. How do you see the ideal career path evolving for someone who might not want to actually go into the management, or kind of like they don't want to have to fix that type of puzzle, because it is just a different type of puzzle, but like but still seeks to be impactful, right? And help leadership, but they kind of don't want to be the leader. By doing that, they are the leader. They just never realize it. How could people improve that way? I
think you hit the nail on the head earlier with increasing your sphere of influence. When we start, we influence just our teams, or just ourselves even. And then we increase to teams, to our individual team. And then we can take that to other teams, and then the company, or the business unit, and then the company, and then across companies. So there's no end to where your technical skills can take you, and your communication skills, that combination that makes you uniquely a good tester. Yeah. I think management is indeed a very specific set of skills. And if you can influence your team, if you can convince your team to do a lot of good things without necessarily needing you to do all those good things, then that helps increase your sphere of influence as well.
I think there's a lot that people can take away from that, and hopefully people can learn and adjust how they want to do their careers, because we need to be learning every day to be successful in our career. I think that's another important thing. So the next thing that I wanted to bring up is that you've done a lot of work in usability and accessibility and stuff like that. So just beyond functionality, usability and accessibility are paramount nowadays in delivering a truly quality product. How do you integrate these like crucial aspects of quality assurance processes, and what are the common pitfalls organizations face when trying to ensure their software is both user-friendly and accessible to all?
That's a hard one. So I don't like documentation. It's something that I need to be... It's a weakness of mine. I don't like writing a lot of documentation. But when I do write documentation, I try to include ideas for testing around someone having a really terrible day. So like they've just broken their arm, or, you know, their sick child kept them up all night, so they got 30 minutes of sleep. Something like that. Someone having a really terrible day, and how are they still going to use our software? So that kind of risk can look different for every product, whether it's we don't want to cause additional frustration, or we want people to actually be able to navigate things using their voice, or things like that. I think companies, if it's expensive to do, if it's going to delay a timeline, if it's going to require a lot of extra money poured into a project, they may not want to do it. But again, it goes back to communication. And if you can tell an effective story of how someone on a really bad day could get really frustrated or even harmed by the software, then that can go a long way in getting those things fixed or thought about from the beginning.
You're not wanting to do documentation. I kind of feel that's you've been working in tech for a while, because that's everyone in tech is the same, right? Like, and having worked on open source projects, you can see the ones that are in heavy engineering focus because there's no documentation. It's because documentation is hard, right? And it's more than the communication. It's about kind of seeing it from a different person's perspective, and which I think is very similar to a lot of what quality is, right? And usability and accessibility is, I think they're all incredibly similar. And I find I never realized this, but I learned it a few years ago. But when I learned it, I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. It's like a lot of accessibility tools have improved usability. Like, so if someone's having a really bad day, right? And so like, if you take a very simple example, you're driving your car, you get a text message, it comes through CarPlay or Android Play, and that is using accessibility frameworks just to read you that text message. And it's like, and most people go, wait, that's accessibility? It's like, yeah, because you can't use your hands, you can't touch the screen, you're able to do all of these things, and it's using text to voice, right? Mm-hmm. Perfect example of the other one, my other favorite that I like to point out to people is software engineers generally try move away from using the mouse because it slows them down. They just want to type, right? And so keyboard shortcuts, it's another accessibility feature for someone who might not be able to use a mouse. But engineers are like, this is perfect because now I feel more productive, right? It's making my day actively better. But I find a lot of product people never look at it from that side, and therefore a lot of quality people never look at it from that side as well, right? I'm always fascinated when it comes to the usability thing. So kind of, you've said like a person's having a really bad day, and so if this was just like a basic web application, what is that thing that people could help do to a basic web application that improves that for that person, that mum who's been up all night looking after a sick child and now has had to go to work. Could you describe how you look at the risk on that one, so that people can visualize it?
Yeah, so that's heavy in usability. Is stuff easy to, if you're on a retail app,
Yeah.
is stuff easy to get into the cart? Is it easy to pay? Is it easy to choose your shipment? Is there a lot of confusing text? So, and even, is your copy too chipper? Are you trying to show a bunch of personality through your copy? And is that just going to really irritate someone when they've had 30 minutes of sleep? So, some things that I wouldn't recommend doing this all the time, but some things that I like to do are figure out how to get myself into a state temporarily where I'm in a bad place. So, like arguing with someone on the internet, or reading a bunch of text that's really hard to understand. Something where your brain gets a little fuzzy, or you're upset, and then going through and seeing how much your flows bother you.
Yeah.
Like, do I have to, if I want to choose shipping and I want to choose the free shipping, is that the bottom one because you don't actually want people to choose free shipping? Or, like, is there stuff that's confusing about your flow? So that's one way. If you want to really experience it, set an alarm for 2 a.m. and in that foggy state, do some testing in the middle of the night and give your colleagues a report the next day of, this was really awful, or hey, we did a great job.
Yeah, I think there's a balance to be had, because ideally you don't want to be buying things at 2 a.m. in the morning because you might not be making the right personal decisions.
Right.
But there might also be you run out of nappies and you need nappies for first thing in the morning, right? Like that's why I say there's a balance. You don't want to be, as you said earlier, you love art and you could easily be buying it. You don't want to be buying expensive art at 2 o'clock in the morning. You want that to slow you down.
Very true.
Yeah. And so I also think it would be amiss of me to exclude kind of AI. It's what everyone's talking about. How do you see AI or artificial intelligence impacting the fields of usability and accessibility testing?
I think AI, as it's being used in vibe coding, a lot of the accessibility and the usability gets missed. So that kind of testing becomes even more critical. There are a lot of misses that AI has, but in being a creative collaborative partner, I like it. So if I say, these are things that I'm thinking about, these are the kinds of test cases that I want, or these are the kinds of risks that I'm worried about, and then AI will say, here are some ways to cover that risk. So using it as a collaborative tool to maybe help you fill in the gaps. I don't think it should be used solely. I like having ideas of my own and presenting them and saying, what am I missing? Because then it gives AI a chance to do its pattern recognition and figure out what you're talking about and point out holes. Too often it becomes a yes man. And so using it as, no, you need to be my antagonist, can really help flesh out more of those usability and accessibility test cases.
So I like that. I agree. Like I would never knowingly trust AI to pick everything for me. Going, what am I missing? Tends to be more useful, because, but at the same time, knowing how AI works, that's the more expensive way to do AI. But I think it's the correct way to do it, because otherwise you get the AI is an over pleaser. I think it's the best way to describe it. Like, it always wants to do it. So, like, you've talked about like a rough approach. Are there any tools that you put on top of that kind of AI specific, or kind of is it just kind of, I get my prompt up and do what you just said?
I haven't used accessibility tools that have AI embedded in them. That's an area of, it's less relevant for my current work, that kind of accessibility. But I know that there are some out there. I know Jason Arbin's Testers AI has some accessibility stuff built in, but I haven't used it.
Okay, I think there's a balance to be had. Like BrowserStack has AI in a lot of its products now, and even in the accessibility one, but it's using the right tool at the right moment, I think, is the key part. Not just, as you say, blindly going with it. If you were kind of thinking of a AI powered feature, especially because that's now the new one, what are the considerations you have for kind of testing, from like being ethical responses, being unbiased, like, and also at the same time it not going down weird, wonderful rabbit holes of hallucinations, which AI can easily do. Have you had experience with testing those things, and like how would you go about thinking about testing them, especially from the risk point of view that you were mentioning earlier?
Yeah, so I'm actually working on a side project that is an AI kind of life coach thing, and the risk there is extraordinary, because you're using it kind of as we hope people don't use it as a substitute therapist, but let's be honest, they might use it as a substitute therapist. And so then the risk becomes just enormous in how do you identify questions? How do you identify how do you identify a person in crisis? And how do you keep them from causing harm to themselves?
Yeah.
So that kind of thing, it's tricky. We have a bunch of protections in place of things like timeouts, where a session doesn't have memory between. You don't have memory between sessions. You can use it for only a certain amount of time. Okay. And also it'll offer up a crisis hotline if you start stringing together things, and it'll break out of a pattern, which are all things that AI wants to do. It wants to stay in a pattern. It can go down those rabbit holes as much as a human can. So that's been a really tricky problem that I'm having to deal with right now.
There was one that I saw at the end of last week where I've seen a number of stories, I'm sure you know them, people using AI for therapy, and then at the end of last week OpenAI opened up everything to be crawled by Google by default. And there was a lot of like this private information, private chats where people are doing it. And so that's the other side of the risk point of view, is like, if any of this information got out, how much harm could it cause, right? Not only to the person, but to the company, to the brand, things like that. And it's not always technical. I think Ashley Hansberger, she's kind of this amazing tester and kind of developer advocate and developer experience person, who always talks about the ethical side of software development, right? And a lot of that needs to be thought about, because a lot of engineers have maths degrees, very few have arts degrees, right? To kind of think through these more ethical side of things. And so we need to be aware of that. I think that's the other risk, I think, is worth pointing out to people.
Yeah, definitely.
Looking ahead, what do you envision as the biggest challenges and opportunities for high levels of usability and accessibility in the age of AI and personalized user experiences and things like that? Like, what is going to be the biggest challenge to be a tester in these spaces?
That's a really good question. I think one of the biggest things is going to be knowing your user. It's been the biggest challenge for ages. I think AI doesn't change that. We still need to know our user and know how they're using our software and know what they're feeling. I think having empathy for our users is still just the biggest thing.
Yeah. No, totally agree. Right, we've come to the quick fire round. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. I need very concise one sentence answers. Are you ready?
I am.
Right. Favorite testing tool you've recently used?
Cursor for learning to code with application insights for observability in a close second.
Ooh, good. I like that. Book every quality professional should read in 2025.
Anne-Marie Charrett's Quality Coach's Handbook is next on my list, but Elizabeth Hendrickson's Explore It is just a perennial favorite.
Elizabeth is amazing. She's so smart. Totally agree on that one. Underhyped QA metric.
Amount of rework.
I'll allow you to expand that one a little bit more.
I think testers are doing our jobs most effectively if there isn't a lot of rework. So for me personally, I keep track of how many times a story gets sent back as a metric of quality.
Awesome. Most underrated skill for testers today?
Thinking in systems.
If you weren't in software quality, what career would you be doing now? Or which would you want to do?
Running fiber tourism, like knitting cruises in cold climates where ports of call you go and visit a farm or yarn shops, and on the boat you actually do like a bunch of classes and socializing.
Ooh, that sounds amazing. Not what I was expecting, but it sounds awesome. Book, podcast, or person that's influenced you recently?
Carlos Kidman. He's my dotted line boss. He's been a great champion for my career and has really influenced how I go about it.
Awesome. That's really good. It's amazing to have good leaders that support you and do things like that. So with that, we've come to the end. Rachel, this has been incredibly insightful conversation. And to our listeners, make sure you follow Rachel's work and her beautiful insights everywhere. Where can people find you to carry on learning from you, Rachel?
Well, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Rachel Kibler. I also have a website which has all of the podcasts and public appearances that I've had. It's racheljoy.com, joy with an I, not a Y. And I'll be at CAST, the Conference of the Association for Software Testing, in August. And then I'll be at Agile Testing Days in Berlin, in Potsdam, in November. Amazing. Thank you so much for having me, David.
No, thank you for joining. It's I think this has been really good. To everyone, please make sure that you kind of click the follow and subscribe button, and so that you make sure that you hear when we get our next video out. With that, Rachel, I will give you the last words. So, any last words to the QA world?
Be excellent to each other and communicate that effectively.
Brilliant. Thanks for tuning in.